Well, hello and good evening, and welcome to the next episode of the NLP Talks Podcast. So, this is episode 2 of series 6, and I still can't quite get saying series 6, given I was only ever intending to do one series. So, here we are for today's live recording. So, if you have followed the show, you'll know that we live stream the recording. So you get to see all of me and my guests' little blips, if we have any. Hopefully we're going to be good tonight. And you get to sit next to us. So the podcast is very much designed to be like a fireside chat. So I will introduce tonight's guest very shortly, and you're going to have the opportunity to listen to us talk. So if you are watching live, please feel free to say hello. You're welcome to comment at any point during the recording. We will see your comments, but please can I ask you to put your names on them, because the old privacy settings on these platforms mean that we don't get to see your names these days, which is a little bit frustrating. So please help us out by just putting your name on any comments that you put on, and then that way we'll know who you are. So tonight's guest on the NLP Talks podcast is the lovely gentleman that you can see sat next to me, sat just there, who I'll get to introduce himself in a moment. But I'm super chuffed to have Phill here with us this evening. And I know as a regular listener to our podcast, you're going to absolutely love what he's got to say. So Phill, good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Laura. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I've been sitting at home or up in the stables or something, listening to your podcasts for what seems like forever now. And I can't believe I'm actually a guest on it. So after listening to it for so long. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
And you're very welcome. And I love the fact your horse has heard me too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my horse knows an awful lot of NLP from you, believe me.
Oh, fabulous. I didn't realise I was training horses as well as people.
It definitely works.
Oh, I love it. So Phill, for the benefit of people that are watching the live stream this evening or are watching the replay either on YouTube or in our Facebook community, could I just get you to do a very brief introduction just for the benefit of those people joining us this evening?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm 55. I'm in a long-term relationship with a lovely lady. I've got 4 children who are all grown up and flown the nest. 3 grandsons, all under 2, which are actually no, just one, just 2 are just over 2 now, and 1 just been born. A big family man, always been massive in my life. My family. Very passionate about people, and I've worked in lots of different environments where people have been at the heart of what's been happening. I've been involved with the sort of the NLP community, with the coaching community now for almost 25 years through different ways.
Don't go too far. A brief intro, Phill. Brief intro.
And it's just it's just part of every part of my life.
You're gonna go into the actual podcast episode in a minute. It's like, stop, Phill, stop. Just to say hello, Natalie, lovely to see you. So Natalie is joining us live, and Natalie has been with me on the NLP practitioner course today. So lovely to see you. Natalie is a dog trainer, Phill, on the South Coast, and clearly is also into horses by the look of her comment. So yes, Natalie, thank you for joining us. Lovely to see you. Cool, good. Right then. So without further ado, I want to start the actual podcast and actually start chatting to this lovely man about his experiences. So Phill, I'd like to start off, if it's okay with you, talking about your background in personal development, because I know that over the years you have invested huge amounts of time and resources into developing yourself, and have done a lot of training with a very famous man in the personal development industry. So could you give us a flavor, how did you get into Tony Robbins? And I know you've trained with him and supported him him, a lot. But give us a bit of a flavor. Like, how did you get into personal development, and how did you end up working for Tony?
Okay, well, the bottom line was I had a neighbor who was very, very heavily into Tony. He was the one that first introduced me to him, and it was through a gentleman called Giovanni Malacrino, who was a restaurateur and club owner and entrepreneur and philanthropist here in Cardiff. It was he that actually got me into Tony to start with. He had completed all of Tony's courses. He'd done Mastery University. He'd even, in fact, arranged for Tony to come to Cardiff once and do a Unleash the Power Within weekend in Cardiff at what used to be the Cardiff International Arena. So he had been very, very involved with him, as you can imagine. He had some spare tickets for UPW, one of Tony's flagship events in London at Docklands, and just said to me one day, "Do you fancy going?" And I just said, "Yeah, why not? Sounds like a blast. Could be interesting. Could be a bit of fun, He already had a hotel room booked and everything else. I thought, well, it's a done deal, isn't it? I went. It blew me away. Literally blew me out the water. I didn't know what to expect, I think, which was a good start. I've always said to people who are going to the events, don't go with a preconception of what you're going to get, because you won't get that. You'll get a whole lot more. You just don't know why, So don't go in with any preconceived ideas. So it was great for me to go in with that attitude. I came out from the course pretty much a changed man. I knew so many new tools and strategies that I knew I could now use in the business that I was running at the time. And I went to work with them. It was brilliant. It really was. I found, though, that over time I was needing to have a top up, So I became, I suppose, in a sense, a bit of a Tony junkie. I was getting the courses, I was getting the CDs, I was listening to the podcasts when they eventually came. But I carried on going to events. So I did things like Business Mastery, for example, and started to widen, my experience of Tony and his whole organization's product offering. And over the years, I just kept developing more and more tools and more strategies that I was able to use then with people who needed something themselves. So, I was able to pass on some of that learning and pay it forward, really, which was a big thing. It really sort of started piquing my interest into, the coaching industry, into personal development. So I started going off onto tangents. So I did the Landmark Forum, for example. I think that was back in about 2005. I went over to Ireland and did the Advanced Forum as well over there. And that was very much a case of looking at things from a completely different perspective from Tony's, but again, still using an awful lot of basic NLP techniques. It was really interesting in that I came to some really startling realizations about things that had gone wrong in my life previously and why they'd gone wrong. In fact, I remember on the original Landmark course, I went in a very, very bad state. I was I just broken up with my ex-wife, and I was not in a good place. I went there thinking this isn't going to work. I'm not in the right position. On the first day at 3:25 in the afternoon, I knew what I'd done, why I'd done it, how I'd done it, and why I'd never do it again. It was just bang. It was like hitting me with a brick. It was amazing. And I found that again and again in different courses that I've done, especially with Tony as well. So that really has sort of developed over the years. I then started going and crewing for the events as well. When you've actually done an event, you get the opportunity to go back and crew that so that you can pay it forward and really have the opportunity to give other people who are experiencing it for the first time the tools and the support so that they can really get the most out of the courses. And I found that was fantastic because every time I did it, I picked up something new. Laura, that repetition is the mother of skill. So the more I went back, the more I crewed, the more I heard things from a slightly different perspective. So the more it became more ingrained and the more I used it. But you know what? All the way through every course I went on, I was missing something. And I didn't know what that was until I met you. And it was as simple as that, because I knew I wanted to get into the coaching business, and there were certain things that stopped me over the years with making the decision. But last year, I had the opportunity to completely reassess my life, my direction, what I wanted to actually do, and what I wanted to give back and achieve for other people's benefits as well. And it was at that point that I thought, right, the time is right now to start the coaching business. I've got the experience. I've had years of developing this, years of working with employees, with colleagues, with teams that I've been working with in different things. But now is the time to actually do it for myself. And looking around, your name was given to me by a friend who'd already been on one of your courses. And when I started on the first course with yourself, so many things that I'd done started to make sense, because I started thinking, I knew that worked. Now I know why. And that was really the beauty of coming to your courses, to unleash the power within, because at the end of the day, your training methods just blow people away. The amount of effort that you put into the courses, the amount of information that you give, the amount of training, it's second to none, and that's why I instantly said, right, that's it. I'm in for this, in for the lot. Whatever you got, whatever your courses you've got, I'm doing the lot, because I just wanted to know more.
I think it's interesting because just going back to the Tony Robbins thing, he absolutely was part of the reason I started looking at NLP. And as many people have heard the podcast may have heard me talk about the fact that I went to a Tony Robbins event not really knowing who he was. I got a cheap ticket and I went to London all on my own and ended up in this exhibition centre thinking I'm in the wrong place because of the bass of the music. I was like ready to turn around and leave. And then
like a rock concert, isn't it?
Yeah, a banner caught the corner of my eye, and I was like, "Oh no, I am in the right place." And it was a very, very surreal experience. Nothing like what I had expected at all. But I left a bit like what you said. I left thinking, I'm really impressed at how one man can stand on stage for 4 days and change the average dialogue of the room. Like when you eavesdrop on people's conversations during lunch and break and things, and people went in 4 days from hating their lives or bad relationships, bad money, all of those things, to in 4 days taking on the world, and they had a plan and they were going to do all these things. And that was what made me Google him on the way home on the train. And I found him and I was like, oh, he does this NLP thing. What on earth is that? And that's how I kind of found NLP, alongside, for those that know my story, the girl I used to work with. But it's fascinating, isn't it, when you go to, because he is, let's be honest, he is the leader in the personal development field. He's the most famous person. He's transformed the most lives. Like, he is the man when it comes to
in many ways, Tony can be accredited with starting the coaching industry. Because before then, what did we have? We had psychologists, we had, people who would, do therapy, of course, but nobody who was looking at sort of the peak performance side of things and tying that in with the correct and the valuable tools of NLP to actually make the difference. People would talk themselves into change. Now they could construct the change for the first time. And Tony is a master at it. I've seen him in so many different ways, in so many different arenas, taking people who are suicidal, for example, and turning them into euphoric individuals that have a thirst for life that, is never going to go away. I've seen him, working with crowds of 10,000 people, where over 6 hours, he's taken them from a plateau to the depths of despair, looking at what's going to happen if they don't change their limiting beliefs, and then come out the other side so euphoric that nothing is ever going to stop them. For one man to stand on a stage from 8 o'clock in the morning till sometimes 2 o'clock the next morning, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row, it's superhuman. I've got to take my hat off to the man.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think the thing, I just guess I came away from, because I've only done one course with him, but I came away thinking, whatever it is, I need to know. I
Absolutely.
need to know how to do what you do.
Yeah.
And when I found out it was this thing called NLP, I was like, I have to find out more about it. And you know, and I think it's fascinating when you get behind, because quite rightly, he makes things very simple, he makes things very straightforward, very easy for people to apply. But it's not until you understand actually what's going on behind the scenes that you actually kind of have those light bulb moments. What comparing your, and they're not really comparable because they're very different, but comparing your experience with Tony Robbins and learning, you know, his version of people change and personal development, and then coming and sitting on an NLP practitioner course with me and actually learning some of the stuff that was actually going on behind the scenes. Like, what was that like for you as an experience?
Do you know what? There's an easy way of describing it. It was just like switching on a light. Because when you're working with Tony, when you're on one of the courses, when you're reading one of the books, when you're doing the tape series, I mean, I've got all sorts of different, CD series and everything coming out of the shelves and everything at me that I've done over the years, and they're all incredibly impactful, and they're all really useful at the time that you're looking at them. But you make changes because you're guided through a process. Okay. You make changes because, you come to certain realizations. That's great. But for myself, learning NLP, learning the actual tools of NLP, it was suddenly like, before I'd been working in the dark, I knew I was going in the right direction. I was feeling my way. I was getting the right directions. I was getting the encouragement. So that was all working fine. But suddenly there was light. Suddenly it was the ability to be able to say, that's why it works. Right. Okay. Do you know what? I've been wondering about it. Now it makes sense. Not only now does it make sense to me, but now I know how I can replicate this for other people. And that to me was the gold dust, because I've worked with lots of different people with lots of different issues over the years, but I've done it pretty much sometimes by the seat of my pants. I've known what will work. I've known that there have been techniques that I've been using that I've observed or I've had done on me, and that's fine, but not necessarily known why. Now I know why. And that is the juice. That is what really, really excites me. Because, every day when I'm learning something new, I'm listening to one of your podcasts, or, I'll pick up the phone and we'll have a conversation or something, and you'll say something that I've probably heard before, but I get it from a different perspective. Again, as I said before, repetition being the mother of skill, but now it's repetition with the lights on. And that is the difference. Does that answer your question?
I love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Repetition with the lights on. I think we might have to trademark or quote that as a Phill Hanlon official quote. Yeah. Repetition with the lights on. I absolutely love it. I love it. I think the guys on the Pratt course today would have loved that as well. Because repetition. That's how we get good at anything.
Absolutely.
So when you were kind of looking for an NLP practitioner course, did you actually think to yourself, I need a practitioner course, or were you looking for coaching accreditation, or what was it that, because you mentioned that you'd obviously done a load of Tony Robbins stuff, and a life opportunity had presented itself for you to go in the direction of coaching. And I'm just curious as to, what specifically it was that you were looking for that led you to come and do the course.
Well, I was looking for some sort of official accreditation. I wanted to have something that gave me credibility in the industry. If I was talking to a potential client and they were to say to me, okay, so what have you done? What is your training? What's your accreditation? What's the, your official status in the industry? I didn't have that before. I had so much experience. I knew what was working. I had so many people that I'd worked with that had fantastic results, but it didn't have that piece of paper. And to me, that was really, really something that was very important. I'm quite old school in that respect, I looked around and I was talking to different people, people, that I'd crewed with in some of the Robbins events, people that I'd come across in things like the Cardiff Yes group, which is a group of people that meet on a regular basis that have been involved in the industry in different ways. And different people kept saying, yeah, you need to go down the NLP route. You really do need to. That's the way to go, which I knew anyway, but I was putting store in other people's opinions at that point as well. And, getting people who had been in the industry for a while, seeing what they were qualified in and seeing what really was going to be most effective. Everything kept running me back to NLP and the wider training around that, hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, of course. And then a friend of mine, James, who in fact who's been on one of your courses, and he's a very, very dear friend of mine. He just said to me, "You know what? You're going to do NLP. You can't do better than Laura." It's as simple as that. And that was it. I got your number, made the call, spoke to Lynn, of course, at the office, who is an absolute wonder. I can understand, why you are so successful with her, backing you up every step of the way.
Yes.
And, she just made the process so easy. It was unbelievable. I mean, I had literally just taken voluntary redundancy from where I was working. I was working in Admiral Insurance at the time. And having taken the voluntary redundancy, Lynn just jumped in and said, "Oh, you've been made redundant. Do you know there's funding available?" I was like, "Ho, tell me more." So it was just about, your organization basically just made it too easy. You made it so easy for me to make the decision that was just a no-brainer. And once I had come on the first call, I just knew. You get that gut feeling, you get that feeling of, yeah, I'm in the right place at the right time for the right reason. And that was it.
And I'm a firm believer, and I often say this on our courses, I think NLP finds you at the right time. Like, it found me at the right time, and I'll often sit on courses, and you've heard me say this before, I wish I'd done NLP 20 years ago. 20 years before I started. But I think the reality is, if I had found it 20 years before, I don't think I would have been open to it. I don't think I would have been ready for it.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I mean, I think I had to go through some of the challenges that I've been through over the years to be able to appreciate the experience that I'd built up from that. And then to be in the right frame of mind and really just realize, what a gift that was to me in being able to give back to those people that I cared for.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So we catch you here recording this podcast episode, 2/3 of the way through your NLP journey, or probably feels like slightly more. So at the point of recording this episode, you've done your certified practitioner course, you've done your certified coach course, you've come and assisted on a number of courses to help us out this year, which has been
repetition being the mother of skill.
Absolutely. And you've come and helped, and it's always been such a pleasure to have you in the training room. And you've just finished your master pre-course study. So you start your NLP. I know. So for those of you on the podcast, he's just kind of mopped his brow. So he's just finished the pre-course study for Masters, which starts on Sunday at the point of recording this episode. So Phil's in a very unique situation. Now, before he talks about this, I just want to caveat what I know he's probably going to say, which is my standards of NLP training are high. And if you want a certificate for NLP and you want a certificate factory, I am genuinely not the right trainer for you, because I am all about supporting everybody to be the best possible coach and master coach and professional they can possibly be. And so I have high standards, and so I push everybody to be the best they can be. Now, that does come with an element of time and effort that needs to be invested in these courses for you to get the results that you need to get. And so Phill mopping his brow is something that I think every single person who's ever done Master Prac with me will do at this point, because they're so relieved to get that test in. So we have to do pre-course study, and everybody has to submit their test for marking before I will let them come on the course. And so Phill is at this point. So Phill, this is the first time I've ever interviewed anybody that's just done the pre-course study for Masters but hasn't yet got there. So Phill, how are you?
Fried, I suppose, is the way. My brain is fried. In fact, I woke up last night in the middle of the night, and I just had phrases going through my head from things I'd written in the test and from the pre-course study material, and the more I tried to put them aside, the more they were flashing back in front of my eyes. It was let's put it this way, it's been a journey. That's what they say these days, isn't it? Everything is a journey. Well, this was definitely one of those. But you know what, Laura, as you said, I've done the coach, done the prac course, etc. And I thought I had a pretty good understanding of a lot of the principles of NLP, but it's only when you actually start looking at Masters that you actually start realizing the depth that you've still got to go to. Now, I've been so lucky that the clients that I've been working with since I did the courses with you, I've been really heartened to see the changes that people have been able to make with the tools that I've had so far. I cannot wait to get back out there with the tools that I've just learned just doing the pre-course study, never mind completing the master's course, next week and, the final week in November. And it just opens your eyes even further to the possibilities of what can actually be achieved with the unconscious mind. It is fascinating. It's been an absolutely fascinating journey. The way that you put the test together as well. There are some lovely little nuances in your questions, I found, that you just think, I'm sure I've answered this one already. And you go back and it's just that little change in emphasis that you put in the next question. You think, okay, I see where she's going with this. And then suddenly you've got to do so much more reading, so much more listening to tapes and to videos and all the rest of it. And I also found that going through the pre-course material, the more I did, the more I had to go back and rewrite what I'd already done, because there's so many crossovers between different parts of processes and tools and strategies that you think, hang on a second, I can use this in question 3 that I've already answered. So you go back and that suddenly, it starts as a page and then suddenly it's 3 pages long and then it's 5 pages long and you're thinking, am I ever going to stop? But you know what? I think I've got through it.
I'm sure you have. I can't wait to mark your test tomorrow for you. It's exciting. Lindsay, one of our other students who trained. Hi, Lindsay. Lovely to see you. She's joining us here live on the recording. And Lindsay's just written it, hard work, but so worth it. And it absolutely is, and everybody always says that, and we are hard, like the wonderful Lynn, who everybody gets to speak to on the phone, and we all adore her. Lynn, if you're listening to this, I know you will. We love you and thank you. But she's so lovely because she's like the good cop. So people submit their tests and she gives them a scan, and then she'll say, before I give it to Laura, just go and have a look at those 3 questions again and send them back in, and then I'll give it to her. And she just watches out for everyone and does a great job at steering everybody in the right direction. Because to be clear, the point of the test is not to trip people up. It really isn't. The point of the test is to ensure that you know what you need to know. Yeah. And as you say, mother of repetition, because you have to, it masters its videos. So you have to watch the videos once, then the second run through, watch a video, what can you do in the test? Watch a video, what can you do in the test? So actually, you've already touched the majority of the techniques 3 times already. that by the time we've finished, you'll be at 5 or 6 times. And that's the repetition that we build in. I'm just
And
curious.
also, you go back onto the original ones that you did for the first courses as well, because there's so much in there which is just as relevant to, laying the groundwork for what you're learning in masters. So it's great to get back into those and again repeat that learning and get that in again from another perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just curious, how well prepared do you feel sat here right now, knowing that next Sunday you're going to start the main course?
Ask me again in 48 hours when I've had a sleep.
Okay, you want to know you pass the test first, and then you'll be all right.
At the end of the day, I feel like I just know so much more than I did. When I finished the prac, for example, I just feel so much better equipped now, and I cannot wait because I know that it's just, as I said before, the tip of the iceberg compared with what we're going to learn on the actual course. All we're doing at the moment is facilitating that learning, and that's just so exciting for me.
Yeah, and it is, and that's the point. The point is you arrive on day one of the course already with a lot of learning in your head, and then that means that we can actually spend more time building on that. It still horrifies me that there are people out there running master practitioner programs where they are letting people turn up on day one with no prior knowledge of that material.
Yeah.
Like,
do you know what, Laura? One of the things here is that this isn't just the fact that is a gift for me as an individual. What excites me so much is, yes, I'm learning, but I know I'm equipping myself for the work that I'm doing with people who need it. And that is your gift to them. I know that you've got a particular, goal of the number of people in life that you want to be able to affect, and you want to, the lives you want to touch through the people that you train. And, you are doing that every single day as you are delivering those courses, because people like me who take the learning on that you give, it enables us, it empowers us, it arms us with the relevant information, the tools, the strategies and everything to go and change lives for the better. And that is the gift of NLP.
Thank you so much. That means so much. I absolutely love it. And that's why I do it. I love it because nothing excites me more talking to people like you that can't wait to get their hands on that master prac material, because I know that you will be able to go out there and change lives, because you already are. And I want to move on to talk about what you're already doing, because I'm already conscious time is ticking, and I'm like, I want to hear more about what you've been doing. So you did prac, you've done coach, you've been coming back in and assisting on the courses, and that's been amazing. So talk to me a little bit then about Phill Hanlon coaching. So recently born and already a number of very successful results.
Yeah, it's been an absolute blast. I mean, I've been working with clients who have had a whole host of different challenges in their lives, not just here in locally and around Cardiff and South Wales, but internationally as well. It's amazing what you can achieve over the internet through Zoom or other platforms. And simple example, I took a young lady who was suffering from agoraphobia, had hardly been out of the house for over 6 months, massive challenges in her life. Did a timeline therapy session with her, and with literally the same day she was out walking. Within a week she was off holidaying in Devon. She was doing things like the Race for Life for cancer research. I mean, just literally a totally different individual from one session. And I remember watching her and thinking, did it really work that well? Was that me? And it excites you when you see that response to the tools that are available, and you see somebody who trusts you. You get that rapport. They put their trust in you, and you commit to making that difference for them, and then you see that difference actually manifested in reality. There's no feeling like it. There really isn't, and it doesn't matter whether it's face to face or whether you do it over the internet, or even sometimes when you're just doing linguistically over the phone, sometimes with clients. When you get that response from them, you see that life changed for the better, for good, you just know that you're on the right path. I've been working with a young man with some fairly serious anger problems. Again, timeline therapy with him, and just seeing the changes in his behavior, the changes in the way that he's now interacting with people. You think to yourself, oh, there's a life change. There's a man now put back on the right path, and his opportunities now are endless because he has got that control back that he didn't have before because of historical negative emotions swamping the way that he was thinking, swamping the way that he was living. And it was just pervading every part of his life. That's no longer the case, I mean, I had such a fantastic opportunity recently. I have 3 grandsons, who are an absolute gift in my life. They really are. But the very latest grandson is now, as we're recording this, is just turned 2 months old.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to do a hypnobirthing session with my daughter the day before she went into labor, the day before she went in. And to say that she was the calmest, most collected mother on the birthing unit is to say it's just, to put it mildly. In fact, everybody was screaming and she was sitting there going, what's the big deal? It was fantastic. It really was, and I mean, that to me was just a gift, because at the end of the day, I knew it was going to be tough for her and everything, and just to be able to help her through that experience was a gift. It really was. And she's still calm today. It's a total shock to me.
Oh, wow. I mean, what amazing results, from having done, 11 days of training, all right. Yes, I know a lot of pre-course study before prac. I know that, but 11 days of training and to sit here, and hear these stories of real life clients where you've taken what I've been able to share with you and changed these people's lives. A woman that wouldn't leave the house, who now is enjoying her life and going on holiday, a young man in his late 20s who had anger issues and now has got his life back. I mean, what a difference in your 20s to have that resolved, that will just change the course of his life,
Absolutely.
And a wonderful example of your daughter. I just think that's just superb that you got to help her as well. There is a little bit of a secret about you and hypnosis that I think we possibly should share with our audience. So there's a little bit of a story here. So when Phill came on the NLP practitioner course, he was very, very good at all the techniques and a very, very diligent student, and did everything I said and took everything on board. And we were doing one exercise, and I can't remember which one it was now, but there was one exercise on prac, and he happened to be behind me in the training room working with another student, and I just heard the voice, and I just turned round and I went, that is a hypnosis voice. I said, Phill Hanlon, you can hypnotize me any day of the week with that voice. And I said that they'll all be fighting over you, Phill, on the hypnosis course, because they'll all want to be hypnotized by you. And yeah, true enough, they were queuing up, weren't they?
Yeah, little did I know that when it actually came to doing the practical test of the hypnosis, it was you that I had to do it on as well. And I was thinking at the time, oh, great. Yeah, here it is. I don't get to do it with another student. I have to do it with the tutor. Oh, well, at least I'm going to get some good feedback, if I forget something, if I get something wrong, at least, let's just look at it that way. And then I remember doing sort of the half hour with you. And at the end, when I brought you around, and I said, okay, so how did I do? And you just looked at me and said, how do I know? You trashed me. I don't remember anything after the second minute. And I just thought, okay, yeah, I could do this.
I think it's fair to say you did a good job, Phill.
Yeah,
Honestly, I don't remember a thing. I do not remember a thing. And that's a good thing for those of you that have never done hypnosis or hypnotherapy. When you're doing hypnotherapy with a client, you don't want them to remember what you said. And it just turns into this wonderful noise and wonderful messages to your unconscious mind. And well, I woke up at the right time. So happy days. You know, I could have stayed there, to be honest. I was a bit naughty. I shouldn't probably say this on a podcast, but when I was a student on my master prac, I fell in love so much with hypnosis that at the end of hypnosis, we count the client out from 1 to 10. So 1, waking up, 2, 3, waking up, 4, wake yourself up, 5, wake yourself up, 6, 7. Anyway, all the way through to 10, wide awake, wide awake. Anyway, I was enjoying it so much, I was naughty. And so I changed the words in my head. So what I heard was 1 going deeper, 2 deeper and deeper, 3 deeper and deeper. And I was a very naughty client and didn't do as I was told. So I probably shouldn't say that, because the hundreds of students that I've trained over the years who I shout at and say, follow the script and do what I ask you to do, now know that I'm not a particularly good client, and I do have a habit of enjoying my hypnosis. So anyway, there we are. It's public now. It's in the public domain. What can I say?
I was very honoured on the last physical prac course that you did when you asked me to come back and do the hypnosis demonstration. So that was a big honour for me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And it was a treat for the students, and it is, it's lovely to be able to see, because I think I remember what everybody's journey is like. Like, I remember day 1 when people walk into the practitioner course, and I will always remember day 14 when you leave the master prac course. And the transformation in people is phenomenal. And to think that I have had a hand in equipping you with skills that naturally complement your natural talent, which is your lovely voice. Anyway, the offer still stands. Anytime you want hypnosis practice, you let me know. I'll be there.
Absolutely.
There's a song, isn't there, around that? Anytime you need me, I'll be there.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, I think, isn't it? Don't you talk about Nanny McVie as well?
Oh, I do. I always talk about Nanny McVie on my courses.
When you need me, I won't. When you need me, I'll be there.
Yeah, when you need me but don't want me, I will be there.
That's it.
But when you want me but no longer need me, I must go. And that's how it ends up on the course. Because they're like, oh, Laura, we really love it. We want to do more. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what you're doing now. You don't need me anymore. I just, before because I'm conscious of time as always with these podcasts, I just want to talk about some of the international work that you do, because we have a number of listeners on the podcast all the way around the globe. And I know you really enjoy working online with some of your international clients. Is there maybe a client that you've worked with internationally that you're happy to kind of share with us in terms of some of the results you've got for them?
Yeah, a very simple one. Did not long actually after having come off the second course with you. That was with Ali over in Australia, in Canberra. And I did a fast phobia model with her, where she actually had a fairly severe snake phobia, which, as you can imagine, in Australia is, you've got the opportunities of actually being frightened of some of those over there, it was incredible that it was either 18 or 20 minutes, we completely obliterated it. And that was just over Zoom. It wasn't a case of being in the room. It wasn't a case of doing, any techniques that needed any physical touch, but being able to make that connection and being able to just guide her through the process over the internet, time differences, they just melt away. Doesn't matter if I've got to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning because that's the time that it's right for the client, then that's fine. I just adjust my sleeping pattern accordingly, and that is the beauty of international work, that you can touch anybody's life. You can help anybody anywhere, as long as there's a stable connection. And it was brilliant, and she, as I say, within 20 minutes, I think the scenario, I think, was that her husband had actually been playing the Samuel L. Jackson film Snakes on a Plane. And she was so petrified of snakes, she actually had to leave the house because there was a film on the television.
Wow.
within 20 minutes, I had her watching the film
Amazing.
and laughing. So
Amazing.
I think that was a big tick.
Just a little. Funny enough, we got rid of a snake phobia on the NLP practitioner course online yesterday.
Fantastic.
So that was a big achievement, and our client is off to do her task over the next couple of days.
Great.
So I can't wait to hear how she gets on with that. But yeah, isn't it just amazing? It's just amazing to know that borders are not an issue anymore.
Do you know what? This is one of the things that I think has been a gift from the pandemic. And now, as much as the pandemic has been so terrible for so many people, and I totally get that and I totally honor that, it has opened up opportunities at the same time for good, and this opportunity. I mean, who would have thought of delivering NLP tools over Zoom before the pandemic, hit? We would have thought, oh no, it's just never going to work. Now we know it works. It doesn't just work; it's as effective as it is if you're in the room in 90% of the cases. And that, I think, is a gift to the industry. Never mind anything else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Phill, I could talk to you all night. But I'm conscious that your wonderful partner will want you back very shortly.
I'm sure she will at some point.
Yes, she will, absolutely. It's been so wonderful talking to you and hearing about your experiences of Tony and your experiences of how doing the training with me has only just complemented that and given you more tools and more understanding. And to hear, that you've done your prac and your coach course and already have helped these wonderful people in so many ways, I couldn't be more proud. And I can't thank you enough for being part of the mission. I think, as I said to the students on the NLP practitioner course this weekend when I was training, whether you know it or not, you've just been recruited to my mission to positively impact 50,000 lives while I'm here. Because as you quite rightly say, Phill, I can't do that personally. There's no way I could personally coach 50,000 people. It isn't going to happen. But I absolutely can through the wonderful people like yourself who go out there and change the lives of other people. And I will forever be everybody's biggest cheerleader, supporting you all and cheering you every step of the way.
We appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming and sharing everything with us. I'm just wondering, Phill, if anybody is listening to the podcast, either here in the UK or anywhere around the globe, because we're listened to in, I don't know, however many countries now, 160 or something countries. I don't know, I've lost count. But if anybody would like to get in contact with you because they're interested in engaging you as their coach or want to find out more, what is the best way for them to get hold of you?
Well, they can certainly message me through my website at phillhanlon.com. There's always, of course, the simple emails of phil@phillhanlon.com. That's Phill with a double L. I'm very particular about the two L's. And there's always the usual social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Phill Hanlon Coaching, or just Phill Hanlon with Facebook. There's lots of ways to get hold of me. Let's put it that way. And I don't mind how people do it. Just do it if they need it. Because if somebody needs something, I'm here for you. It's as simple as that.
Oh, amazing. And remember, it's 2 L's. If you're looking for him online, it's PHILL. If you're looking for him, otherwise you won't find him. Listen, thank you so much, Phill. I really appreciate your time and appreciate you coming on. It's
Laura,
been
before you close, I would like to extend an invitation to you to be a guest on my podcast. Putting together a series at the moment called Inspirations for a Better Life, and I'm looking at a whole host of people who are high achievers in their industry, and I can't think of anybody better that I would like to interview myself. So I hope you will honor me with a repeat of this experience, but from the other chair.
My absolute pleasure. I would love to join you on your podcast. And when you do, we shall share it so that everybody can hear it. But it'd be my pleasure to join you. So thank you very much for the invitation. Lindsay's still with us. She said, thank you so much, both. Wonderful and so inspirational. Lindsay, it's lovely to have you with us. Thank you for joining us, and our absolute pleasure to share that with you. I hope you've got another little injection of NLP there to see you on your way. So Phill, we have a bit of a habit, a bit of a thing that we do on this show, which was we wrap up with a quick fire round, which of course you have no idea what I'm about to ask you.
None whatsoever. Now I'm starting to worry.
Other than I warned you we would do this, and you went, oh, nothing like putting me on the spot then, Laura. No, not at all. So here we go.
In quick.
Your quick fire round starts now. So, Phill, if you could give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would you say?
Trust more.
Good. If you had a famous quote that you absolutely love, what is the quote that you love so much?
The secret to living is giving.
I love it. You're doing this like a pro. You're like you've got an answer for everything. So I love it. I love it. If you could sum up your experience with us here at Unleash Your Potential in one word, what would you say?
Outstanding.
Oh, thanks. And if you could give one top tip to the listeners of this show, what would your one top tip be?
Live every day with an attitude of gratitude. I start my day every day, as I have done for 23 years when I first went on that first Tony Robbins event. And that is that I start my day with a gratitude exercise. I'll be posting that gratitude exercise in a blog on my website probably in the next 24 hours. So if you want to know what I do every single morning, which switches me on, which fires me up, which gets me started for the day and gets me focused, that's what I'll be putting out there. But at the end of the day, all it's about is just living in gratitude. It's about realizing the wealth of what we have in our lives. Doesn't matter how things are going. We can always find the bad in life. If, when we look, that's what we'll find all around us. But we can equally find the good. And when we do an exercise that centers around the feelings of gratitude, it switches the mind into looking for more things to be grateful for. It's impossible to feel overwhelmed, to feel anxious, to feel depressed if you're feeling grateful. The two sides of the coin, they can't coexist at the same time. And I think that really has stood me in the best stead for, as I say, 23 years. And I would recommend it to everybody. I recommend it to every one of my clients. I give it to everybody that contacts me that has any type of issue. It's a starting block for me for everything in my day. And for every time that I come across a challenge, I go back to it. It's now ingrained in my DNA. So I know I can switch it on at a moment's notice. As soon as I start that process, it floods me with those feelings. And let's be honest, it doesn't matter how much money we've got in the bank. It doesn't matter how big our family is. If we're not grateful for what we've got, we're poor by any means. It's as simple as that. If we are grateful, we are truly rich. And it's only through that feeling of gratitude that we can really live.
Oh my goodness, what gold to finish the podcast episode on. Thank you so much for sharing that pearl of wisdom. I absolutely love that. So thank you again, Phill. Really appreciate your time and sharing all of that wisdom with us. Thank you also to all of you that have tuned in and listened to the podcast. Of course, the podcast wouldn't exist without all of you tuning in to listen to the podcast. So hugely grateful for all of your time to listen. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Again, I've absolutely loved it, as I always do. Please be sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you listen to your podcast, so that you are notified when we release the next video. And not video, podcast. I'm on the wrong platform, Laura. Audio podcast. And if you are interested in finding out any more about the courses which Phill has discussed this evening, all that you know I already offer, then please head on over to our website, unleashyourpotential.org.uk, and you can email the lovely Lynn at info@unleashyourpotential.org.uk. Take good care of you, and we will see you back here for the next episode.